Good evening, AP Biology, and welcome to AP Biology Daily. This is topic 3.6, cellular respiration. And this is Daily Video 1. My name is Chris Mansour, and I'm coming to you from room 102 at Tiffin Columbian High School in beautiful downtown Tiffin, Ohio. In today's Daily Video 1, this lesson will describe the process that allows organisms to use energy stored in biological molecules. So now we're going to focus on us. It's all about us now, how we use energy. And the skill that we're going to focus on is constructing a graph, plot, or a chart, which is very important. And so what will we learn? We're going to learn a lot of good stuff. But first, what processes do all forms of life use to produce ATP? How do eukaryotes coordinate cellular respiration? And how is an electrochemical proton gradient formed during cell respiration? Again, might be a good little pre-assessment to pause the video and try to jot down some answers. So fermentation and cell respiration are processes that allow organisms to use energy stored in biological molecules. You may have heard of these terms before. And so cellular respiration and fermentation are characteristics of all life forms. All living things have to use energy in one form or another. Cellular respiration and fermentation release chemical energy from organic molecules like glucose. And as you see in my image there, we have glucose as the starting point. And so oxygen, though, is not used during the process of fermentation, but is used during the process of cellular respiration. So if you look on my image there, you can see where I put a red box around oxygen is not present. And then oxygen is present. So it's kind of like you get to a fork in the road. Oxygen not present, oxygen present, which way do we go? And the one key thing here is that fermentation and anaerobic respiration are not the same process. Fermentation, the products are lactic acid or ethanol, where in anaerobic respiration, we still have pyruvate. So that's just kind of a key point I wanted to point out there. So again, what I tell my students is draw the picture. So maybe you may want to pause the video here, draw this picture, maybe add notes to it as we go. Again, use these videos as you see fit. So let's talk about cell respiration a little bit. Cell respiration, eukaryotes, we're eukaryotes, right? So we're doing cell respiration now. It involves a series of coordinated enzyme catalyzed reactions that capture energy from biological molecules. There's a lot of words in that sentence. Maybe if there's some terms you're not sure of, pause the video and define them. So I have a picture here of cell respiration, a quick overview. Again, maybe stop and draw, may be helpful. So cellular respiration involves the release of chemical energy through the breakdown of glucose and creates an energy storing molecule called ATP. Again, ATP is ultimately what we want to produce. And so what cell respiration does, it takes this chemical energy through the breakdown of glucose to create more ATP. So ATP is used by all cells to do biological work. So biological work to transport materials, for movement, for reproduction, whatever it may be, ATP is used by cells to do work. And cell respiration involves multiple metabolic pathways. We're back to those pathways again. Pathways are important, right? They're sequential so that you can release small amounts of energy each time. And so our first one is glycolysis, which occurs in the cytoplasm. So you can see where that arrow just popped in. That's glycolysis. All of these processes start with glycolysis. Glycolysis is a conserved process. All living things do glycolysis. Pyruvate oxidation. All right, pyruvate, right? Which is one of the products of a reaction in oxidation. You're losing an electron. That occurs in the mitochondria. So you can kind of see where I put that red bracket in. And then there's the arrow pointing to that process. The Krebs cycle, also known as the citric acid cycle, occurs in the mitochondria. And so there's your Krebs cycle, also known as the citric acid cycle. And then finally, we have the electron transport chain, which occurs in the mitochondria. So again, a lot of steps here, a lot of small pathways. I would stop, draw the picture, put glycolysis, pyruvate oxidation, Krebs cycle, electron transport. And so let's talk about electron transport first. So electron transport chain transfers energy from electrons in a series of coupled reactions. And so essentially what the electron transport chain does, the reactions occur in membranes of chloroplasts and mitochondria and in the cell membranes of prokaryotes. And so there again, in that blue box, I'm showing you electron transport chain. So an electron transport chain facilitates, again, facilitate means to help, a series of coupled reactions used during cell respiration. Again, if you're not sure what coupled means, maybe pause the video, maybe ask a friend, put a text in the Zoom chat. And so the electron transport chains allows for more controlled and efficient transfer of energy. When I talked about those biological pathways before, you want these small series of steps. It's more efficient. And then the electron transport chain uses electron energy to establish, again, an electrochemical proton gradient across a membrane. Lots of words. Again, don't get overwhelmed. Pause the video, draw the picture, go through and figure out ways to define these. But the point of the electron transport chain is to create this electrochemical proton gradient. And there it is. There's that creating that gradient as those protons are moving across. And so what will happen is those electrons are delivered by electron carriers called NADH and FADH2 to electron transport chain. So again, lots of information here, break it down to smaller steps, but in that green box down there, you can see where these carrier molecules come in. So again, pause and draw, you know, kind of label these pictures because there's a lot going on. And then finally in this step, ATP synthase, again, that enzyme, we know it's an enzyme because it ends in ACE, uses the electrochemical proton gradient to synthesize ATP. So ultimately, we're making some ATP. So again, a lot going on in this picture. Pause, draw it, do your own colors, label it. But again, I think we learn really well from drawing out these processes. So let's practice a little bit. There was a lot there. This is going to, so in this lesson skill, it's representing and describing data. We're going to construct a graph, plot, or chart. And often you have to be able to interpret graphs and charts, or often you have to draw them. So here is our data. We're going to representing and describing data. Yeast cells are placed in an apparatus with solution of sugar, which is a major nutrient for yeast metabolism. The apparatus detects bubbles of gas released by yeast cells. The rate of respiration varies with the surrounding temperature as indicated by the data below. So you have temperature, you have number of bubbles of gas. I'm not going to go through and read those for you. Pause the video. Graph the results represented in this data table. So this is where I would pause, do your graph, because in the next slide, I'm going to give you the answer. So go ahead, pause the video, draw out your graph. You know, if you're doing this in class, hold them up, show your friends. Maybe you need to put something on the refrigerator for mom and dad or whoever you live with. All right. So here is what a graph which would be acceptable. So again, the graph setup must contain a title, a legend, and a y-axis with bubbles of gas per minute along the bottom. X-axis temperature in degrees Celsius, correct measurement units and scaling for that axis. The data plotted, correctly plotted points in proper orientation. Points may or may not be connected with a line. Again, there's multiple ways where this graph can be represented, but it has to have those basic must contains. So again, pause the video, look at your graph, compare it to this graph, see what you did, maybe what you missed. This is a good time for discussion. So what should we take away? Key takeaways: all living things use fermentation and cellular respiration to produce ATP. All living things need energy, right? And so all living things have to access energy in a way that it is sequential and that it is not being wasted. Eukaryotes, like yourself, coordinate cell respiration in 3 metabolic stages. And again, you can go back maybe a minute or two in the video. Glycolysis, which all living organisms do. Pyruvate oxidation, again, oxidation, losing electron, and Krebs cycle, which kind of go together, and oxidative phosphorylation. And then finally, NADH and FADH2 deliver electrons to electron transport chain, which uses the electron energy to create an electrochemical gradient of protons. A lot of terminology. You may feel overwhelmed. You'll be all right. It's all right. So pause the video, go through and maybe jot down the terms you're not sure of. Again, use that Zoom chat to talk to each other, reach out to somebody, but these are your key takeaways. Go back to your pictures, all right? You got this. I believe in you. So again, I want to thank you, all you AP Biology teachers. I know you're working hard. All you AP Biology students are working hard. And again, this is Mr. Mansour. I'm signing off from room 102 in Tiffin Columbian High School in beautiful downtown Tiffin, Ohio. And this was your AP Biology Daily.